I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. They've had many happy anniversaries. The church recognizes some long-lasting marriages.
Why do you think you're successful in your marriage? What do you think you met a wonderful woman?
He's a musician with a message. Part 2 of my interview with John Michael Talbot.
I never set out to do anything new.
Yeah.
I just set out to be a hermit, and people began coming to the hermitage door, and lo and behold, here we are.
And it's a piece of New York history at a place you might not expect. We'll take a look at what's being done to preserve it.
We're here to try and bring all of our parishioners back and look at the past and the present, and then hopefully we can build for the future.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Francesca Maxime has the night off. Well, it's a number we hear all the time. 50% of marriages will end in divorce. But the couples you're about to meet do not fall into that category. The Brooklyn Diocese celebrated these men and women who've reached some milestone anniversaries. 25, 30, 40, 50, and at least one couple who's been married for, believe it or not, 70 years. Wow. A special mass took place at Our Lady of Angels Church in Bay Ridge.
Well, today is one of the best events, really, that we sponsor as the Office of Faith Formation throughout the year. We bring couples from throughout the diocese, throughout Brooklyn and Queens, together to celebrate special wedding anniversaries, beginning from 25 years and up. And the couples come together for a mass. They renew their vows in their own languages. And then we have pictures with the bishop, as well as the opportunity for some refreshments afterwards.
Today we have somebody with 70 years, 60, 50, 40, 35, 25, all the years of marriage. It's over 6,040 years of marriage, I think we have represented today. And we give a special blessing. There's renewal of vows for those who attend. And it's our effort to highlight the sacrament of marriage, how important it is, and how well it is lived by many, many people. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to speak to those who have lived marriage so well, because they are heroes and heroines, really they are, and today we want to honor them. Reaffirm my marriage vows and dedicate myself to you, say Bishop
To teach in a classroom is one thing, but to show the living example of these great people, that's really what teaches people. They're greater witnesses than any classroom could ever be to the sacrament of marriage, to human love, to the greatness of family and its importance. Really why we as an office enjoy putting it together so much, because of the witness of these great people.
We were married in December of 1969.
Her sister introduced me to her.
And we've been, it was like the first and the last, because
I was her first boyfriend and last boyfriend. We contribute to success two beautiful daughters and one son. And we have 3 grandkids.
I feel happy for them because they can love each other for that long. If I get married, I wanna get married as long as them.
Like most couples, we've had moments of bliss, we've had challenges, and with prayer, we've been able to overcome them.
They're a great role model. I mean, they've been through quite a bit, a little bit of their stories and their lives, and it's inspiring. It's something to shoot for.
What do you think? Why do you think you're successful in your marriage? What do you think? You met a wonderful woman. We've been married for 50 years. He asked me to dance, and we talked, and I had a friend, and he had a friend, and the story goes on for 52 years, 53 years. Yeah.
We have a lot to look up to. 50 years of a wonderful marriage of 2 parents that have given everything to their family, and we aspire to be more and more like them every day of our lives.
What we want to hold up is the ideal. We want to hold up those who have stayed together in committed love, and those who can show that marriage can and will be a great gift from God if we take it that way, if we understand it, as our bishop said today, as a sacrament.
Happy anniversary!
Very nice. So many years of marriage there among the couples that were gathered in Bay Ridge. Well, stay tuned. There is much more Currents coming up straight ahead. When we return, we'll have the day's headlines, including in church with a tornado outside. And now one man is thanking God. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, raising funds for a piece of New York City history. But first, let's check the day's headlines. A day after financial reform hit a major roadblock in the Senate, faith groups are joining with labor and community organizations to protest big banks. The faith-based group called People Improving Communities Through Organizing, or PICO, is sponsoring protests today in San Francisco at the Wells Fargo shareholders meeting. PICO says the goal is to demand changes in the way that big banks do business and to call for an end to practices that are harmful to everyday Americans while benefiting the people responsible for the economic crisis. The group will sponsor other protests, including one on Wall Street, coming up on Thursday. The New York Times has been under fire from Catholic leaders recently for the paper's reporting on the clergy sex abuse crisis. Today, the Times published an article highlighting the current Pope's support for an investigation into a German bishop accused of abuse in 1995. The report says then Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger was approached by an abuse victim and wanted to appoint a fact-finding commission to investigate the claim. Meantime, the Vatican newspaper, the Roman Observer, published an article this weekend written by a seminarian that said if the church is to emerge from the abuse crisis, priests must make it clear that they are on the side of the victims. Well, a recently leaked British government memo that mocked the Pope's upcoming trip to the UK will have no effect on the visit. That according to a Vatican spokesman today. Among other things, the document suggested the Pope should launch his own brand of condoms or open an abortion clinic during his visit. The British government has apologized for the memo, calling it disrespectful. It turns out some urgent care services will remain at the site of New York City's last Catholic hospital. St. Vincent's Medical Center is in the process of shutting down its operations in Greenwich Village following a long battle to stay afloat. Manhattan's Lenox Hill Hospital has been awarded more than $9 million to operate a 24-hour urgent care facility on the site. Governor David Paterson made the announcement. He says the state will chip in another $4.6 million to expand 4 clinics that serve the area around St. Vincent's. An Indiana judge has ordered that lawyers for 88 pro-life protesters arrested at the University of Notre Dame can call on university officials to testify in the case. The protesters were rounded up by police for trespassing during President Obama's controversial commencement address at the school last year. The judge's order lifted a stay that had prevented the protesters' attorneys from seeking documents or testimony from university staff. Well, a new survey shows that millennials, the millennial generation, is nearly 3/4 of people among that generation are identifying now as being more spiritual than religious. The survey conducted by Lifeway Research found that 72% of adults ages 18 to 29 agree, at least somewhat, with the statement that they are more spiritual than religious. The remaining 28% of millennials disagree. Some other findings in that poll as well. It also found that 65% of the same age group identify as Christians. 14% said they have no religious preference. Non-Christian religions make up another 8% of the millennial population. Agnostics and atheists combined make up 14%. Now, among those who self-identify as Christians in the millennial generation, the survey found that the group is evenly split on the issue of whether Jesus is the only path to heaven. Well, severe weather tore through the South over the weekend, with tornadoes leaving paths of destruction and death behind. But one man is crediting God with saving his life as one such storm leveled a Mississippi church. Reynolds Wolf reports.
This pile of rubble is all that remains of the Baptist church where Dale Thrasher has worshiped for the past 12 years.
We had a 2-story building here with a sanctuary in the middle, classrooms above, offices down the hall here.
Thrasher was working alone inside on a men's group project when his wife called to warn of the coming fury. Moments later, his world went dark.
It was just like a huge giant cloud on the ground, swirling, black, rain, wind.
Thrasher ran for cover in the sanctuary, got under a table, and then prayed for a miracle.
About that time, the windows started blowing out. You could hear the glass, and the building started shaking, and then it collapsed around me.
And then it was over.
I looked up, and the rain was hitting me in the face, and the clouds were still there, but that storm was gone, and I knew the building was gone.
Thrasher walked away with a scratch on his thumb and elbow, but also a stronger faith.
He's sovereign, and he knows what's best, and I leave it there.
Absolutely.
I just praise him that I'm safe and able to talk to you today.
And a new appreciation for Mother Nature.
Generally, storms don't scare me. They might in the future, but Lord bless me through this one. I hope He don't bring me through another one.
That is Reynolds Wolf reporting. And finally, a judge in Haiti dropped all kidnapping charges against 9 of the 10 U.S. missionaries who tried to take children out of the country in the wake of the devastating January earthquake there. Only the group's leader, Laura Silsby, faces any charges at all. A judge ruled Silsby must stand trial in Haiti on the lesser charge of arranging irregular travel. She is still in a Haitian jail. She could face up to 3 years in prison if she is convicted. Stay tuned, there's much more Currents coming up ahead. Just ahead, there's more to this musician than guitar and voice. We'll hear about the ministry of John Michael Talbot.
I go out and I sing, and preach, teach, call people to Christ, call people to become better members of the church, and it's great. It's evangelization.
Welcome back. Last night we heard from the troubadour for the Lord, as he's known, John Michael Talbot. He visited with us here to talk about his music. Well, tonight we continue that conversation as he shares some insight into his own life journey from a Methodist to a devout Catholic, engaged in what's known as the new monasticism. John Michael Talbot, thanks so much for joining us here once again on Currents. We appreciate it.
You're most welcome. It's great to be here, Matt.
Well, taking our time today to talk about a little bit more about your life, your history, your background, and kind of what led you to where you are today. Now, I understand you grew up in a Methodist family.
Yeah, I come from a long line of Methodist ministers, and surprisingly, after I became a Catholic, I tell people I'm a better Methodist than ever. And I still love to go back to Methodist churches and minister. Yeah. And my grandmother, before she passed away, she says, Johnny, she says, you're fulfilling what your grandfather did.
Wow.
Because I go out and I sing and preach, teach, call people to Christ, call people to become better members of the church, and it's great. It's evangelization.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in its purest sense, because you like to go around now and, really get in there with the people on a very personal level. Well, what led you to that? I mean, I know that you've had a very interesting, not only personal life journey, but you've had a very interesting spiritual journey as well. It's taken several turns.
Yeah, well, I started in secular music when I was a kid, and part of the country rock movement. Left that when I saw a lot of really, really unhappy superstars.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I got involved in the early days of the Jesus movement in '71, and by '75 I was recording some Christian albums with Sparrow Records, which is now the biggest record company for Christianity in the world. And then I became a Catholic in 1978, thought that the whole thing was over, because contemporary Christian music really comes out of a Southern Baptist background, and there's a slight anti-Catholic bias. Yeah. So I thought, well, I'm done.
Yeah. And
we put out a record called The Lord's Supper, and surprised everybody, including me, when it became the biggest record in Christian music that year. Did Come to the Quiet, which was very quiet and not Christian rock at all. Mm-hmm. And everybody thought, well, this is going to flop. And it sold 3 times more than Lord's Supper. So, secular music, then Christian music, and now in Catholic music. And I've done 52 Christian solo recordings, and 50 of them are as a Catholic. And the great joy of it is, I think, is that it's bridged gaps and barriers. It's allowed non-Catholics to realize that you can be a Catholic and be saved.
Yes.
You can actually have a relationship with Jesus. And it's been a great experience for Catholics to experience some of the non-Catholic life and vibrancy. And so there's a cross-pollination that's very, very healthy.
Right. Now, what about I know that that's something that you are very passionate about, is the new monasticism. Tell us about it.
Well, the term has only been used for 5 years. We've been around for 30. The new monasticism is an international movement of 40 or 50 communities. We're part of it. We are the first community of our kind with canonical Catholic Church approval in the United States. And the real earmark is integration. So we would integrate the charismatic and the contemplative, the spontaneous worship with liturgical worship, a contemplative monastic base, and then reaching out in what John Paul II called the new evangelization.
Right.
And then we would also integrate states of life. So we have traditional celibate monks, traditional celibate sisters, singles who can marry, and families, all in one integrated monasticism. I'm part of the family expression.
Wow.
Then we have a domestic expression of men and women who live in their own homes. The word domestic comes from domicile, home. And ironically, here in the United States, I think the greatest phenomenon that monasteries are experiencing is all these people, Catholic, non-Catholic, who want to in some way take that more contemplative monastic spirituality and apply it to their own life in the secular world. So we're experiencing this huge growth of domestic members of our community, and we're also seeing an awful lot of families who are interested in the integrated expression of monasticism. So I never set out to do anything new. I just set out to be a hermit and lived in the woods at a retreat center. And people began coming to the hermitage door, and lo and behold, here we are.
There you go.
And I'm really excited by it. Viola and I went to a meeting of new communities over in Rome about 4 years ago. And this thing is alive and well, and it's vibrant, vibrant. And I think we need some of that vibrancy in the church. Again, we've experienced a recession. A lot of people are very politically scared. What's going on, left, right, coffee, tea, who knows, And then we've had the scandals in the church that frankly aren't just limited to the Catholic Church. Other churches are experiencing the same thing. So it's time for us to focus on the majority of the folks who are just living the gospel, trying to love God, raise their families, and be faithful. And these folks are ready for something new. Well, so that's what we're seeing.
There you go. Well, we'll definitely link to your website, and people can find out more about you and your life and work and ministry and the new monasticism as well.
Come join us, folks. I mean, here we are, and we need something alive and vibrant in our country. Come and join us.
There you go.
There's good things happening.
Definitely right now, it's very, very needed. Well, John Michael Talbot, thank you so much for joining us here the past couple of days on Currents. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
Thanks. And as I just mentioned there, we do have more information about John Michael Talbot over on our website, where you can hear him and also where you can buy some of his recordings. Head to our blog. It's at currentsny.net. Click on Riding the Wave when you get there. Now, there are also 2 special performances of his there, videos that you can watch right online, and they were recorded right here in our studio. One that's a web exclusive as well. You won't see it here on the show, so you have to go to the website to check it out, okay? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. When we return, there's more to this church than meets the eye. There's a new effort underway to keep it going strong.
The church is our mother. We want to care for our mother. She's cared for us all these years. We want to return the favor.
Well, finally tonight, in this city of churches, we pay a visit to a unique and beautiful church with a remarkable history, Our Lady of Lebanon in Brooklyn. In the 19th century, it was a stop on the Underground Railroad, the network of safe havens that helped guide escaped slaves to freedom. Today, it's a cathedral, the Mother Church of Maronite Catholics, an eastern branch of the Catholic Church. Now, this piece of New York history is trying to preserve its rich past and at the same time prepare for a promising future.
In 1977, Pope Paul VI named Our Lady of Lebanon Maronite Cathedral in Brooklyn as the cathedral for the Maronites for the entire United States. The year 2010 marks the 120th anniversary of the first Maronites arriving from Lebanon and Syria to the United States, and in particular here to the New York area.
The Maronite Catholic Church goes back to the time of Saint Maron, who was a hermit and a monk and a priest who died in the year 410. The Maronite Church is one of 22 churches, 21 Eastern Catholic churches and one Western that most of the people know as the Roman Catholic Church, but we're all Catholic.
This church was known as the Church of the Pilgrims. When the Pilgrims came, they came because of religious oppression. Many of our Lebanese who have come, especially since the civil war in Lebanon from 1975 until 1990, also left Lebanon because of religious persecution. This historic building needs to be preserved. It is the kickoff now for us to begin our capital campaign for the renovation and restoration of our cathedral.
The church is our mother. We want to care for our mother. She's cared for us all these years. We want to return the favor. Take care of the broken glass, take care of the sidewalks, take care of the leaky roofs, take care of the sagging choir lofts, take care of the organ, which hasn't been operative in maybe 100 years. And to do some basic electrical, plumbing, and basic things that need to be done.
We've begun a campaign to make sure that this cathedral stays and it gives everyone the sense of home, the sense of feeling that I grew up with, that many of you have grown up with.
This is the 1600th year since the death of St. Maron. The Maronite Church throughout the world is celebrating the Jubilee of his passing. Tonight is like a homecoming for everybody in the parish and friends of the parish.
We're here to try and bring all of our parishioners back to see and look at the past and the present, and then hopefully we can build for the future and to enjoy the church and to reminisce and see the beauty of it.
The parishioners have obviously changed over the years, and I think the new people coming in are really excited about keeping the church going. My mom was baptized here. She's 87, and her and my dad were married in the church. We were all baptized here, and my husband and I were married here as well. It just kind of identifies the Lebanese people because we're so family oriented, and it's like a family. It's almost like mother, you know, it's mother and father, I guess, all rolled into one.
We've posted a link on our blog with some more information about Our Lady of Lebanon and how you can help. All you have to do, go to our website, currentsny.net, and click on Riding the Wave. Well, that is it for tonight. Remember, in the meantime, we're always online. Currentsny.net is our website, as I just mentioned. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can become our fan on Facebook as well. We're posting updates all the time, so follow us. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.